Welcome back to Word Blindness Dyslexia Exposed. This is Juliette Hahn here with my co-host Brent Sopel, who has got a giggly face on.
Well, it's Monday.
It is Monday. It is Monday. And so we're going to preface. And I said we weren't going to do this, but now I am going to do this. This is going to be going out in the new year. And so hope you guys all had wonderful holidays, Thanksgiving, as well as Hanukkah, as
holidays suck, so it doesn't matter.
Oh, we got that guy.
Yeah, I hate holidays.
Okay, well, remember my birthday is on Christmas. So
mine's on Ukrainian Christmas. So what do you want? You want a hero cookie or what?
I do, actually. No, I love my birthday.
You want your hat? I want attention hat.
So I like attention.
Okay.
Not I want attention. I know how to get attention. Anyways, that's not where we're starting. Hope everyone had a wonderful holiday, whatever you celebrate. And Mr. Bahumbug over here, I'm sure he's going to have a nice one.
Can you spell that for us, please?
No. I went to. I was like, no, I can do that. No, I can't. So what we wanted to talk about a little bit today is a couple different things. Checking in with your students. Most schools are like mid-year. It's in the new year. Checking to see if they're comfortable, dyslexic or not, with their teachers, because we have a couple of scenarios that we're going to talk about right now. Some kids don't want to be, no, I don't, that teacher's not aligning with me and I don't want you talking to them because it doesn't matter. We have, we can run the gamut on all of these, but some kids do sometimes, we really talk about that advocating for themselves. And this is where I want to really start. Like I am a huge, I was going to say component, but I don't think that's the correct word. I am a huge believer.
You were both, that component can work in this, this scenario too.
But giving the kids that kind of, and dyslexic or not, being their own advocate and many different things, speaking up for themselves if they don't understand, going to the teacher after, if they don't want to raise their hand in class, but being able to say, this is how I learn. I'm not understanding. I need help. And having the kids start doing it that way at a certain age.
Yeah, we get people always talk about, we need kids to advocate for themselves. Nobody could advocate if they don't understand.
Or they're not comfortable with themselves. Right.
And, so it doesn't matter if you're dyslexic or not, or, I see posts all the time and different foundations saying your kid has to advocate. I didn't learn, I'm still trying to figure myself out. I'm 47, right? So that word for me is, kind of, between a
triggering.
That's a rock and a hard place because I couldn't advocate for myself in school because I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what I was advocating for. Right. I didn't know I didn't know what I needed. I didn't know everything that comes with it. So it's great when you can advocate for yourself 100,000,000%. But, it takes time to understand what that means. Mm-hmm. And that's where that component comes into play here for you. Like your kids know. Right? Because you're a key component to that. Now they can advocate for themselves. I couldn't with my kids because I didn't understand.
Right. And you also didn't want, there's times where it's very annoying. Like I'm like, I actually kind of teach my kids also to advocate for themselves so I don't have to get involved. There's a reason for it.
But you've given the tool, like they have the understanding to that 100%. It's a pain in the ass. It's great when they do it. It's like when the kids get their license, they can drive, right? You don't have to get up early, you have to do it. But you've given them the tools to get there. But you had the understanding to be able to teach that. And I think that's, I've never thought about it that way. We always talk about dyslexic. Obviously, that's what you don't understand us, how you're going to teach us. Mm-hmm. And we have to understand how we learn before we can advocate for ourselves.
Right. And so I think it can start though, and this is when if like a parent is listening to this, I would love, this is where kid diagnosed or not, kid, struggling in school or not, having parents, it's the new year. Let's do something a little different, right? Let's do something a little different. Check in with your kid and just say, hey, how are you how is every class? Now, you might not want to do that because you're like, I don't really want to dive into that because I hate school. But if we can start early and really giving the kids like, okay, let's have a conversation. No, this teacher is not. How can I help you get what you need from that teacher? Right now, I know what you're going to say. If the teacher doesn't understand, that they don't know how to switch. No, but you can be a pain in the ass that teacher is going to be like, okay, like whatever. I have to figure it out and try to help a little bit more. Yes, it could stir feathers. It could cause.
How many parents don't even know what that means?
So many, right? I mean,
that's where I was going with it. They've got to learn themselves. And here's that trickle down effect.
Right. And I wouldn't have, if I didn't have Montgomery, I mean, my other two kids, I really actually have been very hands off, truth be told, because I'm like, oh, I'm just exhausted. Right. But when they have ever had, so they're very good at advocating for themselves or going to an adult. And I always say to them, like, if you don't understand, they're not rude kids, so they're not going to be, but like never be disrespectful, rude. But if you're having a hard time, you have to just suck it up and go talk to the teacher. And I know it's uncomfortable, especially when you're little, to be like, I don't agree with something. And so I need you to help. So like sending an email, but then, showing your parent, having it being like, okay, so it's not like harsh. Like we're having a situation where someone in my family has gone multiple times to say, okay, we've had 4 tests. I have it. They're even having to get a tutor because they're like, okay, this teacher's not teaching to the way I want. And academics is very important to them. And it's now been 4. I was like, okay. And they've said, I've asked a million times. Yes. Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. You're right. That wasn't on the test. And I did put it on there because I wanted to see what you know.
Oh, yeah.
And that's tweaking my child. Cause it's like, okay, no, it's tanking my grade. So how is it? So she's trying to understand how this teacher teaches. So then she can adjust herself, which yes, we're going to have to do that in life, right? You're going to have a boss that you don't, that doesn't work. There are things that you have to adjust yourself. But in the same breath, I also believe that this teacher is responsible for adjusting or helping this child adjust. So it's time and time again, nothing has happened. And I said, okay, here I come. Here I fucking come. Very nice email. We went back and forth. We have a meeting. And I'm going to say, this is the notes there's a whole thing. However, what it does for my child is it sees that, okay, I also need to ask for help from some ways instead of just shutting down and being like, I'm just going to fail the class because I don't feel like dealing with it. Because I have some of those as well. That would be like, they don't get it. Fuck them. Yeah. I'm just going to fail. Who cares? Right. And so it's really just tapping in and also connecting with your child and understanding a little bit of how they get through school. Not being a helicopter, because there's a difference.
You've got all those conversations with, teachers, here in Chicago, we've got Chicago Public Schools and, CEOs, they're leaders, right? I think, there needs to be more of a mentality of a teacher, to be a leader. Mm-hmm. They're not leaders. A leader, you have to understand your employees, because that's what we talk about all the time. This is business, right? They don't care about your kids, my kids, or anybody who listens. They don't care about your kids. Okay, so if you don't care about my kids, so now we've taken away that portion. So now we're in a business. Okay, now you need to be your leader in that classroom, right? You're a leader in that office. We can attach wherever other titles are. You're the president of grades, whatever that is. Right?
I love that. Mm-hmm.
Why don't you take care of it? Why don't you do that? Now, every leader has to understand who they're talking to. They're trying to get somebody on board. And that's where, in this world right now, what's that? Inclusion, diversity, all that bullshit. And it's all bullshit because you don't understand us. So you need to learn how to understand us to be a leader of the company. And I think schools, principal, you're a leader. I think if we kind of flip some of those name tags, superintendent or, flip them as, this is a business. if you go from, based on Amazon, right? So, how's their structure broken up in, CEO, CFO, right? And bring that to the school mentality, and teachers need to have that. You want to get paid that? Be a leader. And a lot of them aren't, and I reference, parents, they're not leaders. You have to stay on them. You got to learn how your kid learns, and you have to teach them how your kid learns. And don't be okay with as you said, just, okay, I'll try. No, there's a couple of emails, but you're at 4. Now it's skull crushing time.
Mm-hmm. So a couple different things. As we have said, teachers also from the top, right? They're not getting the tools to be able to do what they need to do in the class. So again, this is not bashing on teachers. We're just using this as an example so someone can understand, right?
And your
so
point, I mean, this was brought point of non-dyslexic. So let's call it a normal person, right? So this isn't coming from the dyslexic side. This conversation started from a normal person, not somebody with 5 Ds. So
right, this is a person that lives learns traditionally. Yeah.
So that doesn't fall underneath them of what you just said. It is teacher bashing to me. I'll bash them all day long when we're talking about a normal somebody with not 5 Ds. If they don't understand or not being taught, and it's a super smart kid, all right, now there's a problem. No, so it's not a dyslexic side here. I wanted to preface that we're taking, we're on the other side of the lane right now, talking about from that side. So you're clearly taught. It's, you don't want to be a leader. Oh, okay. Now I know.
Yeah. No, and one of the things that I love, and I think if any teachers are listening to this, that mentality is a really, really amazing one, because we talk about leaders all day long in the business world, right? We talk about it in the presidential world, in corporate world, all of these different things. And if you think of a traditional leader, that there's you could find so much stuff, right? Leaders aren't born, they're made, all of these different taglines and stuff like that. But if you really think about that, if a teacher can go in and find out, right? Okay, this is how this person is, and get their class to be the top of the class, instead of just going in and being like, well, this is what I have to do because this is what I was taught out of a book. But if you actually get to know your children, not saying this is easy, because I know some teachers have 80, 90 kids, right? It's not an easy thing. But one of the things that I want to throw this. So one of my dear friends, and I'm going to tell her she got to listen to this. Risa Cohen, she is a 8th grade English teacher. And so my child and I went and asked her, hey, what would you do? Like, how would you like to be approached? Here's the situation and here's what we've done. I was like, because I know what I want to do. She knows me pretty much my whole life. So Risa was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Well, let's talk this out. And so she then gave us an example, which I thought was so cool. And this doesn't have to do with, she gave us the advice what to do in that situation with this particular teacher and my child. But she was saying that in her class this year, she wanted to try something different with the essay writings. And of course I had to ask her so many questions. Okay. Like, what about the kids with the 5 Ds and all these different things? She's like, they have their special ed teacher and all these things. But she realized that the last couple essays, kids weren't really learning. They didn't seem like they were into it. She's like, I get it, right? It's 8th grade and things. And she's a writer. She loves, right? Like, she's an amazing writer. And she's been a teacher 25 years, whatever. And so she did what she gave the assignment, she did it backwards than what she normally does. And I talked to her the other day on my dog walk, and she's like, the kids learned, and it was a really cool assignment. They basically kind of were getting graded on how they did a first, and she's probably going to listen back and be like, that's not what I did at all. But this is how I understood it. They basically did their creative essay, their creative narrative. And then they were not graded on like that. They were graded on how they made it better or what they changed with different tools and skills that maybe the first edit got, right? So like, hey, maybe you want to change it here, or maybe if you talk about this a little bit more, or what about this, and how they it kind of intertwined some of the constructive criticism, and that's what they were going to get graded on. And she said kids that really struggle in this were actually able to get like solid grades because they understood the assignment. They understood it wasn't about like how creative they were or what they're writing, with sentence structure and all these different things. So she said, as a whole, her whole group of 80 kids actually got into it. She's like, I saw kids that were like, I fucking hate this, right? Because not everyone, like, you have to take 8th grade English. So she gets kids that don't want to, obviously. She gets kids that really struggle in school. So kind of encompassing all of them. And I said to her, what made you decide you wanted to change that? Like you did something different. She's like, I'm always trying to do something different because I love writing and I want, 1 or 2 kids, right? You're going to get 80. You might get 1 or 2 that actually really like it. The other ones have to do it. So how can I make it where they can learn something that they're going to take with them? Because when you go to college, which we know, my oldest was like, oh, this is how I've always done it. And they're like, yeah, that's not correct. And this is how you have to do it. A little bit of tools on how to get to that next kind of thing, whether you're going to college or not, how to write that corporate email, how to write, these different things that you have to kind of do in most fields. So I thought that was really cool that she decided, I want to switch it up. And I said to her, I'm really actually proud of you because that's kind of cool. And that is like, you're thinking this group needs something different than other groups that she's had for 25 years.
That sounds awful. The whole thing.
And then she has to grade all 80, read them. I was like, oh.
Ask her, has she ever done that in a voice recording?
Yeah.
So, do that. Have you, get somebody to, instead of write their essay, tell their essay.
Well, and I will. So she doesn't.
I'd like to see the difference, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, I will. Kind of matching them, matching them up. To me, could tell a lot.
100%. Because of our learning disabilities. Now, here's the thing is, and I could be totally wrong. So if anyone's listening to this and is like, that's one of the things that I fought and lost every time about if he can do it orally, why are we having him do it this way? He should be doing, my mom fought with my sister and I and lost. And so I don't think in a traditional school setting, if it's not a special school, a private special school, or maybe even a private school, I don't think public schools allow you to do that. But I don't know. I could be wrong. I will ask her.
How can she change what she processed in?
Oh, how for the kids? You mean like on their
tests? Traditional. What you said. How can she go and change the process of what she was doing to what she did before? If you can't, so they go and do this next assignment. It's not like they upload this whole assignment. Juliet Hahn's got, the federal government sitting with a album of Juliet Hahn's work. They don't send it in.
Right.
You can do those things. Why can't you? It's no different taking a paper home.
Yeah.
Right. Am I wrong? You're not taking to the principal. Hi, Mr. Principal. Hi, boss. Here's my 82 essays. Okay, now I'm going to read them. No, you don't. He just walks around the hallway looking like an idiot and getting paid stupid money. That's not how it goes. So can you be creative? Absolutely. Do you have to teach certain things? 1,000,000%. But what would stop you? And to me, it would be a clearer understanding of how your students learn. Like some are going to learn better the other way. Mm-hmm. You're going to have, I think you'd probably have pretty good gaps of how it was broken up if you were able to, to do that.
Yes. And maybe the special ed teacher, because she's got a special, because I asked her a couple of things like, okay, well, what about the dyslexic or dysgraphic kid? And she said, they have their special ed teacher that takes her assignment and then works with them. So she does not work and do that, and then they get those.
Again, it'd be another teaching point for her, right? Mm-hmm. You'd be able to see, you always want to find how people learn, right? And that's what this is about. So she good on her by adjusting. but nobody's ever adjusted like that, like this. And instead of writing an essay, speak an essay.
Yeah,
How
and
many
it'll be
people can't
interesting.
speak in front of a crowd of people?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want to throw it back on you for a second.
Mm-hmm.
So say a teacher's like, okay, I'll let you do that, but you have to present it in front of the class. Is that the same thing as reading out loud? Or do they just get to do it with that teacher? So would it be like they basically tell their essay or like do it into like a voice recording and that's how they turn it in? That's what you're saying.
That's what I'm saying for sure. Because as you just said, presenting it, that adds a different element. Now you're trying to understand if they're learning, right? How they learn. Keep the parameters in the same kind of area. Like essays handed in, the voice essay, the written essays handed in, the voice essays handed in. Then can be a third component. And take it, and if you want to do a presentation or whatever off that, sure, maybe it's 3-step, but she'd be marking them and just listening to them, right?
Yeah. Well, but it's going to
you,
be spelling and commas, and which some people get their spellings off, right? They don't have to do spelling, right? Is it capitalization on certain things? Some kids don't have to, don't get that, their IEPs, they don't have to do it. Yeah. So no, that's a very interesting thought, because what I could see a teacher saying, well, no, there's things that I need to see, sentence structure. There's certain
I just
things.
said the sentence structure, right?
Yeah.
What the word? These are words, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that'd be interesting.
Well, and then maybe if you want to talk about commas, okay, Jill and Brent, went to the comma, make them use that, period.
Yeah.
Speak to it, right? But you're gonna really see different learning styles.
Mm-hmm.
No, what's your thoughts?
No, I want to throw it back on you though. Like if you're speaking, I mean, I can, because when I do text, I will, if I'm doing a text to like someone that I need to add punctuation, right? I will say period and let it go, right? And so I can do that flowing. But if you have like a creative thought in your head, I know you're like, no, I've never used it.
No, I don't know where comma goes. I don't know where period goes. I've got 1,700 run-on sentences. I have no clue what that is. Or somebody used the word like, what's a noun? I'm like, I don't fucking know what those words are. So
noun, verb, adjective, and all of that. Right.
I don't know any of that. There's only one there. There's so I don't do that. Again, could you put that in as a teacher? You have to end your sentence with a period. Yeah, you have to, you give them those details, or comma. You have to say comma. You have to say period. The kids, they'll do that, right? Mm-hmm. Do I? God no. Are my emails? Is there a period? No. Is there run-on sentences? That's all I do.
Right. Yeah. Which is, and then sometimes the emails will correct it. But one of the things that I always found interesting is, because people will say to me, why don't you just, like, if you have something to say, you just spoke it. Now pick it up in, like, if I did it in like a voice text, mm-hmm. right? Or like I did it in a voice, and like say the teacher's like, okay, but you need to have it where it's written, like whatever. But you can orally dictate it. But you can't use chat TPT, whatever that's called, because that is like a huge problem, right? So that's what they think a lot of the kids are doing. So if they could just say like the voice memo, I use the voice memo a lot, and I'll just leave it. Voice memo, I don't know that transcribes, but there's so many different transcribing things, right? So can you, as a kid, is that one of the things that can now be in IEPs, because that wasn't like when we were younger, even if that was, I mean, that they didn't have anything like that, right? Can you do that? So I find if I ever have to voice something and then it transcribes it, there's always so many mistakes. Oh. I'm like, that's not what I said. What the fuck, man? Like, and so there's parts, if you could just voice it and not have it ever transcribed, what does that look like?
Still versus old school, just get a tape recorder.
Yeah. Right. Get those little, I had those in college. Yeah.
Again, outside the box, thinking, yeah, Siri's racist, so she never listens to me. She's racist to Canadians. She doesn't ever type what I tell her to type. But again, it's just another way of learning your kids.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
is it more work? Yes, 100%. As a for
how
a
is it
parent.
more work?
Well, I'm saying for a parent,
she's got to go and grade those anyways.
The
right?
teacher, right?
Yeah, she's great. She could be grading as she's driving.
Yes. No, I think those. I'm right, and I'm definitely going to ask her about it because I think that is an interesting thing. And again, those were things that I fought with our district, and it was they would get. I forget what they said. Whatever they said, it was always like, ugh, whatever.
It's the dumbest thing ever. 2 + 2 is 4.
You're right. To show all that.
You have to show your work. How'd you get the answer? Yeah, you got to show your work. So you're gonna mark me off because I don't know how to show work because I can't. That's just a typical reason of how the brains are different, right? And now here's just a different way of approaching it and seeing. She's been doing it for a long time, so it'd be interesting to see what those results were. What maybe it's do a case study of cohort of kids, or I don't know.
I don't know. I'm gonna ask her. I'm gonna ask her all about it, and she'll tell me. I mean, she's she's been doing it for a long time. She's a good teacher. She always will tell me like, I had this kid and I did this. Like, so she's not one that just is like, nope, this is how it has to be, and all of that. But on the flip side, also bringing it back to the parent, having the parent have these conversations with your child just to check in, IEP or not IEP, 504 or not 504. Just like, hey, how are you doing? I also think for so many different things, mental health, whatever, like a parent just to give 5-10 minutes. We're all busy. Life is busy. We're, everyone has shit. Just, are you getting your stuff done? Is there anything I can help you with? Right? Like, how is it? I mean, because I have a lot of friends that will like check, there's like different software or whatever. Our school has databases that you can check all your stuff. I know I don't have, my kids don't have Life 360. Everyone's like, what? You don't track? No, I don't do any of that.
No, that thing's not true. Life 360, it runs off Wi-Fi, right? So it may, it doesn't go off through off Wi-Fi. So that's be careful with that one.
No, right. We don't do that. And so I know I am not the typical parent. I'm not the typical person, period. But I'm just saying, like, it is good to kind of check in, see, hey, is there something I can do, something I can help with? Because I don't check that stuff. I don't look in to see, oh, their grades are here or that. We get emails every once in a while. I'll be like, hey, you good? I'm good. Because my kids know that they need to go first, right? If they have a problem, they have to try to figure it out themselves. If they can't figure it themselves, they can come to me. It's even when they're studying, like, ask a friend, ask the teacher, ask Google.
Don't ask me.
If I'm the last resort, it's a
problem. We're in trouble.
But go and try to do different things to see what you can come up with. It's just life skills that I'm not doing because I'm like, oh, I'm trying to educate. No, it's life skills because
no, it's
because I
it's
suck
smart.
at that stuff,
right? And that's what it is. It is a life skill. But if you're coming to me at the end, we got problems.
Right. Either there's a very weird answer to this, or you didn't put enough effort in to try to find it. But I think that is like, again, it's the new year. I think for any teacher, any parent, any kid that's listening to this, what are they going to change up? Everyone does their New Year's resolutions. Everyone, tries to, okay, I'm going to be better this year. I'm going to do this. What about trying something really, really different? Like, with school, how you approach it, what you're doing, how you're teaching it. Can you make an adjustment where you're not going to get, I know parents can be annoying teachers. I get it. I know there's not all teachers that love me, but if they were just doing what they were meant to do, I wouldn't be in their face. Now, I know that there's parents, though, that are out there that like to complain. They complain about things. Maybe sometimes they don't need to, whatever it is. So like sometimes teachers, which I've heard, they're like, you change things up, you get 5 parents and then complain, and then you're in trouble. It's not worth it, right? I get that. And today's with coaches and all of that, parents get involved. There's a number, they're either involved, not involved. Right. So I get all that, but can you do something a little different that can make things more fun, can make things, a kid seen, feel or heard that maybe has never felt seen or heard in school?
Again, I think you'd get, rave reviews and kids would be excited to do it.
Mm-hmm.
Again, you've got to get the kids engaged. You got to keep them engaged in different ways, right? Get
the dopamine.
Kind of work. What's that?
Get the dopamine up.
I know how to get it up. I'm gonna go buy an 8-ball.
Yeah. We're talking about school.
School sucks.
Yes. I'm very aware of that. But there's a lot of people that have to go and deal, and they cannot do an 8-ball to get their dopamine up.
Wouldn't that be so good, though?
Not for the teacher.
I miss those days.
I'm sure you do. There's been many days I can look back on and say I missed. I don't know if those were those days. But it is like we can do better. We've talked about it. I don't know how many times. I mean, we talk about it all the time. School was made for, industrial, whatever, to work in factories. Like things are still being done the same thing. Kids are still reading things that we read. There needs to be something that is done. And so if it's not going to be happening at the top, why don't you as a teacher change it up a little bit? You as a principal, you as administrator, change it up a little and think of, all different kind of learning styles, how you can incorporate it.
The old cell phone, look how far we've come.
Right.
But so don't tell me, this is how it has to be done.
Mm-mm.
Mm-mm. Sex doesn't have to be done like that all the time. In a lot of different ways. So is teaching.
We're just going to leave it at that. 32 minutes. Look at that. You guys, you know what to do. Like, rate, review, and share. And this year is going to be a huge year.
Yeah, I'm going to get fatter.
For the Soulful Foundation. Just ignore that. But you guys know what to do. Like, rate, review, and share. And we'll see you for another episode of Word Blindness, Dyslexia Exposed.